Y'all must have forgot.
So I was reading Psalms 104. I love that chapter. I think that's like one of my new favorites is Psalms 104. But it was talking about the creation and Elohim or Yahuwah being the creator. And it has some very descriptive language in there. And as I'm reading through it, I noticed that this is actually saying a lot of the same things that Yahuwah was saying to Job. So if you look at Job 38 and you compare that with Psalms 104, you'll see a lot of similarities. But if you look at Job 38, 39, 40, and 41, you'll see a whole lot of similarities with what it says in Psalms 104. But I say all that to say Psalms 104 talks about Leviathan. I forget what verse. I'll put it on the screen. It's like 5 in the morning, by the way. Maybe 6. I can't remember what time it is. But it's early. Anyway, Psalms 104 is talking about Leviathan. And Job 41 talks about Leviathan. And we have a thing that we do that we tend to rationalize everything. When things get too fanciful, when things get too spiritual, we want to rationalize it. Nah, it's not like that. When they were talking about Leviathan, they were just talking about a crocodile. I was like, really? When they were talking about behemoth, they were just talking about a hippo or an elephant. That's all it is. That's not what it is. I got excited when I read that because what they were talking about was, I think the closest thing we would have to describe this is a fire-breathing dragon. Leviathan is akin to a fire-breathing dragon, but probably 1,000 times worse than that. That lives in the sea. Yeah. All right. I got some more for you. So here's a look at Job 41. And this is specifically about Leviathan, and it's going to describe it as well as ask Job a bunch of questions about Leviathan and what he can do with it. Can you lay a hand on him? It says, you will remember that battle and never repeat it if you were ever able to do that, right? It speaks about how ferocious Leviathan is, the power of its limbs, the graceful portions of it, just how big it is, the outer covering of it, and describes it as armors. Its terrifying rows of teeth. It goes on to go back to the outer covering and talk about the scales, but also it says flaming torches shoot from its mouth. Flaming torches shoot from its mouth. Fiery sparks fly out, right? Smoke billows through his nostrils. That sounds like breathing fire, right? And he could actually set coals ablaze. But the scales on its back is like armor, and it's so tightly fit together, air couldn't even get between it. It's hard like a rock. I don't even know what that means, but I don't want to find out, right? It's just a lot about Leviathan and how us as man couldn't do anything against Leviathan. Anything that we would try to do would not matter. So if you describe Leviathan as a crocodile, that doesn't make sense, because we got a crocodile hunter, a whole crocodile hunter, right? Okay, Psalms 104, verses 25 and 26, but with emphasis on 26. So what I did is I went to the Blue Letter Bible, and here we are, right? And I do this a lot. I'll look up the definition. I'll go to the concordance. I'll even go to the Googles, right? And I'll look up definitions of things because a lot of times I want to know what you're really saying or what the actual word is. So here is Leviathan. This is what it looks like. That's the transliteration. That's the pronunciation. That's the Hebrew word there. There is the concordance number H3867. And this is H38882. That's the root word, the etymology, what it came from. But in the Bible, how they use this word here is as Leviathan itself, or a sea monster, or a dragon, a large aquatic animal, meaning living in the water. And then they throw in some conjecture here, perhaps an extinct dinosaur, plesiosaurus, exact meaning unknown, right? And then they go here because some people like to play around and say a lot of different things, like, oh, we think it's just really talking about a crocodile, which, like they say, and like I think, it is absurd. And if you go to Job 41, like we just did, and we read that chapter, that's not describing a crocodile. It has similarities to a crocodile, but it's not describing a crocodile. Some people say that this could be a whale as well, but if you go through here and you look at some of these lexicons and these concordances, they'll pretty much tell you it's not a whale. It's not a crocodile. People want to say that because of the scales. Oh, it's very large, lives in the sea. It must be a whale, and we want to rationalize these things. Whales don't breathe fire. This said it breathe fire. We like to rationalize too because we'll say, oh, it's just poetic language. It's not really. It's just being symbolic. It's just being spiritual. No, it said what it said. It said what it said. The closest thing I know that Job 41 is describing is a fire-breathing dragon that lives in the water, and it's huge. Leviathan. Yeah. And I take it for what it says. That's real. Now think about the ocean. How much of the ocean have we actually explored? 10% maybe? I'll put it up on the screen for you. I feel like it's 10% of the ocean we've actually explored. That leaves a whole 90% that we don't know about. And we saw in Psalms 104, verse 25, that it says, the sea is full of creatures that we can't even count. So there's a number of creatures that are in the oceans and the seas we have no clue about, and there's so many of them we can't even count them. Oh, if Leviathan was real, we would have seen it. Somebody would have seen it. I'm pretty sure people have seen it. Most have not lived to tell the encounter. And the ones who did live to tell the encounter, you didn't believe them. Yeah. All right. There's that.
Y'all must have forgot.